Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about KNOWLEDGEry. I like that term. I used to hear that term when I was a kid listening to hip-hop, in particular, conscious hip-hop. And they would talk about the KNOWLEDGEry and how there were the use of words and concepts that were veiled, meaning a camouflage for something else way more sinister. And I'm going to give you an analogy. If you followed the teachings of a person and they taught you how to be foolish with money, but yet you were brought up to know that it's not good to waste money, would you continue to follow that person? Would you continue to maintain this ideology, even though it's giving you bad credit, even though it's putting you into shitty housing? And that comes along with a whole cadre of things like health issues, the type of people that you hang around, the type of people that you mate with, and your offspring. And what ends up happening to your line? Well, I'm using money as an analogy right now, but there are so many people who have been duped. And when you look at a lot of the revolutionary movements throughout history, many of them have been backed by communism and Marxism and even socialism. But when you look at what those things are, they're really just the endless multiplication of suffering. Marx was an atheist, yet he was a fan of Mephistopheles. It's very strange that he had a rebellious obsession with the devil, the adversary. Many people would defend that by saying the devil is just misunderstood. At that point, I'm done fucking with you. Karl Marx came from a family of Orthodox Jews, both ethnically and religiously. His father converted to Lutheran Christianity, and his uncle converted to Roman Catholicism. Marx was baptized a Christian in 1824 at the age of 5 years old, but he did not become an atheist until he went to college. There is a famous quote, "Everything that lives deserves to perish." Karl Marx wrote demonic poetry that was found in the 1920s and then eventually published. There is a book called Marx and Satan that discusses it. All of the liberal biographers of Marx always ignore those demonic poems. The book Marx and Satan was written by a guy named Richard Wurmbrand, who was a prisoner for 14 years of the communist government in Romania, where he was persecuted and tortured for his faith in Jesus Christ. And his experience led him to spend more years researching Karl Marx and the communist doctrines that he developed. The Communist Party portrays itself as a noble endeavor for the good of mankind and claims an atheistic view. But as you dig into what the founder of it really thought and what he wrote about and his real perceptions in the real world, real people, you find out some really messed up, fucked up shit. When Marx went to college, he met a professor named Bruno Bauer, an anti-Semitic and atheist professor at Bonn University in Germany. Bauer and Marx wrote a journal called the Annals of Atheism. You got to understand that Karl Marx was not this everyman proletariat hard worker that he pretended to be and professed and preached about. He attempted to get money from his mother and father constantly. He never worked a factory job. He was a poet, and he eluded the hard labor that he praised and promoted. This guy was a complete fraud because one of Karl Marx's famous quotes is, "Workers of the world unite. We have nothing to lose but our chains." This guy was a complete fraud.
Well, the problem with the situation is that most of us get introduced to this guy in college. And in college, you have these wild ideas about how you can make the world perfect and how you want to change the government and all this other shit, which is good. But the fact of the matter is that these motherfuckers that are subscribing to this don't realize that this guy was full of shit.
But see, you learn about this even before that, because if you learn about the Black Panthers in high school, then you learn about how they respected the views of, Chairman Mao Zedong.
That changed though. You do like, okay. See, we've had this talk. See, me and you've had this talk in real life. This is like the second, third time we've had partial talks on the air. When you find out about the Black Panthers, the first thing you learn is socialism, and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. Socialism is a great idea it never gets implemented that way in the real world?
Because it's never built from scratch.
No.
Socialism is never built from scratch. Because it's a rich kid's concept. And
Yeah.
it has to be created from something that already exists, because you have to partially you can't tear it down completely. You have to partially tear down what's there and then build on top of that. It's the same, people don't realize, this is the same concept that has happened for centuries, where invaders will tear down a temple, an Egyptian temple, and build a mosque on top of that. And then Christians come in and knock that down and put a church on top of that.
On that foundation.
It's building on something that's already there. This concept is as old as time.
But hold it. Like I said, me and you are talking like they know what we're saying. So we have to explain shit. So when you first learn about the Black Panthers, you're like in high school. Well, some of us were in high school. A lot of motherfuckers don't learn about them until they get to college. But thanks to hip hop music, like I said, we've talked about this in past podcasts. Hip hop was so influential. And then you find out about this stuff. And I was lucky enough to have a teacher at Creighton when I was in high school that was part of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coalition, all that. So he was in Cali at Berkeley when the Panthers started. So, I was learning something like, oh, wow. But he also taught me that socialism is a problem, is that, we thought that was a good idea, not realizing that it just gave more power to the people that are in charge. So the reason we go down this path is because they're trying to slap you in the face with it. They're trying to sugarcoat it. They're trying to change the name of it, but still give it to you. And again, like I said, I like referring to past podcasts, but we talked about this before. They're making it impossible to exist without socialism. They're creating a situation where gas is so expensive, insurance is so expensive, and then we haven't even got to the food and the shelter part yet. Roscoe's been breaking this down for a couple podcasts where we talk about the housing market in Atlanta, where literally they said this would be a great starter house. This house would be $350,000. This would be a good first house. No, that doesn't even exist anymore. You have these outside forces buying up all the property and renting them out. So you'll never own that. That template is going to be for the whole country if we don't do something about it very quickly.
Karl Marx was not the everyman proletariat worker. He simply was not.
He preached to you as, that he wanted you to be.
He was a rich kid that lived off of his parents' money until he couldn't anymore. And then he got married. And his wife was from a wealthy family. But she was cut off because they were constantly asking for money. Karl Marx did not possess any skills to pay the bills. Police reports from the local German police in 1848 state that the Marx home was always in disarray and messy with flimsy furniture. There are records that show...
That's hilarious.
There are records that show the landlords would turn the heat off because of the inability to pay the bills. The Marx family was also evicted several times. Karl Marx practiced awful personal hygiene. He refused to bathe. He developed sores on his backside, which made it difficult for him to sit for long periods of time. So there was something that he wrote around that time, and it sounded very, very bitter, very angry. Yeah, man, you got herpes, and you got fucking hemorrhoids, and
you got
carbuncles.
boils on your ass.
You got boils and shit, dude, because you're not wiping your ass and taking a bath, dude. Like, you're disgusting. You also see this in these same dictatorial type people. Now, what people don't understand is that filth is a form of demonic possession.
Oh, well, hold it. That's deep. But what I was going to say is you're literally describing somebody who does not want to take care of themselves.
Because cleanliness is what?
Next to godliness.
Hello.
You hear that shit. Like I said, I remember you introduced me to some shit. You talk about Father Malachi at the Catholic Church.
Yep.
What a real
spiritual warfare looks like.
Yes, yeah. And you was laying that shit, and when you read it, I couldn't read the whole book. You know, you're much better reader than I am. But when you start reading that shit, and you realize that, God, dog, that literally, that filth gives demons a place to hide, how to reside in your residence. Or another thing that people Like, when people talk about certain things, how we kind of brush under the rug because it's something that we don't want to deal with. When they talk about the Nephilim and and the flood kills off all these Nephilim, right? But these Native Americans and all these old cultures talk about those spirits still reside. The spirits didn't leave the earth, just their physical form did. So when you sit here and have this fucking cluttered ass house with all this shit and all this other stuff
and
in
you
it,
can't even pay your bills. See, that's a form of orderliness.
yes,
Having a clean house, having the bills paid, righteousness can manifest easier in a place like that. And I'm not talking about the Almighty God. I'm talking about the love of self, love of each other, the family bond that flows through a house, in a clean and orderly house. Everybody's in a happy and jovial state because they're not looking at misery all the time.
they're not being sucked in.
How many poor people's homes have you been to that were clean as a whistle and you couldn't tell these people were struggling? I have been to, growing up, I've been to plenty of homes like that. Listen, man, let me tell you something. Black women, old school black women, I'm talking about the ones that are unaffected by the crack mutation epidemic. Those black women, dude, there's no way in hell they was going to live in a raggedy house. They were not going to live in a filthy house.
Filthy house.
Because
no.
If that woman was working Monday through Friday, man, you better be damn skippy Saturday and Sunday what she's doing in that house. She's cleaning the house. And I'm talking about you walk in that house, dude, and it smells fresh. The windows are open to let the air out, you know what I'm saying, to get fresh air in the house.
Cleaning the bathroom.
The house smell like pine saw because the floors been mopped. There's bleach that's been in the toilet to kill all the bacteria, you know what I mean?
They use bleach on everything. They put a little bit of bleach. But look, the best example I got is my Aunt Essie and my Uncle Jeff. My Aunt Essie lived to be 104. My Uncle Jeff died, I think we were probably in high school, maybe junior high. But the point being is that she got Social Security. Her Social Security was like $500. That's it. Like the house was paid for. She existed off $500. But house was always immaculate. She had all my pictures that I've ever taken from grade school all the way up to college. You know what I'm saying? And she knew where everything was. So when Roscoe's telling you that we've been brainwashed to think that you need to be wealthy to have a clean house. That's not it, motherfucker.
Bro, it's the total opposite. I'm in wealthy people's homes all the time. I was in a wealthy person's home the past week. You know what I'm saying? And I can tell you, money does not equate cleanliness. It does not. Especially if those people got dogs. That dog hair is everywhere that you're not looking. And you got to clean that shit out. But what I'm saying is that the whole reason why I brought up black women, because they are the highest.
Amazing.
They are the highest level kung fu masters when it comes to maintaining the cleanliness of their home. And I'm not talking about these chicks, you know what I'm saying, that want to be
clean
cute
up after the party.
And no. I'm talking about no nonsense women. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That don't take no shit. That came up right. You know.
No, I was talking about you know how like you have to get together at the house and y'all wrapping it up, and there's one chick that hangs around and cleans up like it makes her wifey material. Like, nah, you nasty bitch. You just picking up pop cans. You're not wifey material. The fact that you're here probably means you're not wifey material. Look, the point being is that people are subscribing to philosophies of
Trick-knowledgery. They're falling for fancy words that hide other things.
And the thing is, the person that brought it out or invented it did not live by it. And they were giving that to you. They were giving these rules to other people to make the world easier for them to exist in because they didn't want to take care of themselves. You have a generation that do not want to take care of themselves, and they want the world to be fair. And what fair means is that I get to be a celebrity and not take care of myself and pay bills. That I want to be rich like the Kardashians, but I don't want to ever do anything.
No, it means I want the state to protect me from everything, including
myself.
Including the words of other people, including the scrutiny of other adults.
Look, and like I said, so many of these books that people introduce you to in college, Roscoe said some very profound shit early on. He said you were raised a certain way and you had certain rules and things that you adhere to. Then you start following somebody, and the person that you're following, or the group, or the ideology that you're following goes against what you were taught, even though what you were taught has served you very well. That's what he's trying to explain, is that like sometimes, look, I go to church. I'm a Christian. I don't go every Sunday like I should, but sometimes if the preacher's saying some shit that I think is bullshit, man, that shit out.
Right.
That's bullshit.
But Marx, what he taught and what he thought was in direct opposition of
yes.
what, not just Christianity, but any foundational spiritual system that teaches oneness, togetherness, and the concept of family. It was totally against that. It was totally against that.
One of the things you always heard at church was that atheism was always satanic. And you're like, man, that don't make any sense. It makes perfect sense. See, when atheists aren't nihilists, we get the two confused. People think atheists don't believe in anything. No. Atheists believe in heaven and hell. They just don't believe in divinity. So who makes the decision that you're going to heaven and hell?
Whoa. Explain that part so people can understand what you mean by that. The difference between divinity and, explain that. Why they don't believe in divinity.
I don't know why, but what they're saying is that there's no God. That if you're a bad person, you'll go to hell. And if you're a good person, you go to heaven.
Okay, stop for a second. Growing up, you ever meet like a white motherfucker that was like super rebellious, talk back to his parents?
Come with it.
And act like a little shithead?
All the time.
And the whole time, what were we saying? Oh, he just need his ass beat. What that is shorthand. That is shorthand for a person that needs humility and discipline.
The person that comes to mind was Russell. Remember that nigga?
Yep.
He lived.
He was exactly like that. The crazy thing about this, I saw this motherfucker like in my teenage years, and he was still the same person. He was still super spiteful for no reason at all. And I'm like, dude, there's something that happened to your ass, and it doesn't matter. It's not our problem. But if you keep acting like this, you're gonna run into a movable object. That's gonna be somebody's forearm, or elbow,
no.
or a knee, or a gunshot. You're gonna get fucked up.
Here's where that shit gets deep. Those kids that were allowed to do anything, they wanted discipline. They saw me and you get spanked. They saw me and you get held accountable. They wanted their parents to love them enough to do it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the motherfuckers felt like their parents didn't love them because, well, they're not holding me accountable, so I'm just doing what the fuck I feel like. Prime example was the motherfucker that stayed next door to me. So, you know what I'm talking about. So there are situations where you observe somebody not be held accountable. And then, but everything they do and say is that they want to be held accountable. They want to be taught. They want to be this. In fact, when they get out their parents' house, they run to somebody else's house and ask for that discipline. Oh, man, this such and such showed me I had a mentor. I had this.
Or what happens is then they'll start taking like martial arts, or they'll take up sports, and they gravitate toward the coach or the sensei or the sifu because that person takes no shit, and it makes them practice discipline.
So that's the crazy part. That person will run towards discipline in their adult life, but they didn't want it as a child, or they didn't get it as a child. I don't want to say they didn't want it. They probably wanted it as a child, but their parent was unable to give it to them. Sometimes what people don't want to understand is you cannot give what you don't have. If you ain't got discipline, you can't give discipline. A lot of these people with children don't have discipline. That's why they were parents early, or parents out of wedlock. I'm not trying to be some kind of preachy motherfucker, but I'm saying that you lack discipline, so how can you give it to your child? Mm-hmm. But the reason we're bringing this up is because a lot of these philosophies, going back to when you asked me about atheism is allegedly a lack of a religion, but is a religion that has heaven, has hell, but they don't have any divinity. They don't have a God. So who decides who you go?
No, but they don't see heaven as hell, and heaven and hell as consequential. They see them as these adjunct thing, or these things on the side. They're not something that's to be taken serious.
Well, on the flip, Now you have these people that say, I don't believe anything. I'm an atheist. No, if you don't believe anything, you're a nihilist. That what happens is that these people watch TV and they get educated from television. Then they do a little bit of reading and think they know the difference, and they don't realize that.
And then they start repeating this stuff. And what's funny is that these same people,
they regurgitate bullshit.
But they'll create these satanic names or handles or avatars to use so they can go and like create burners accounts for trolling. And then it's like, oh, well, you're just a fucking coward, and you are lazy. You're a lazy coward that doesn't want to get out here and actually learn things for themselves.
Look, the prime example of these behaviors, when you look at Hillary Clinton, when you look at Barack Obama, remember they always talk about that book, the Handbook for Radicals, or is it Rebels? I think it's Handbook for Radicals. They love to defer to that book. But the Jewish guy that wrote the book, in the foreword, he says, this book is dedicated to Lucifer, the first rebel. And I'm like, excuse me? Why would you dedicate a book to Lucifer being the first rebel? So some people just want to rebel for the sake of rebelling, not because they're being chastised, not because they're being held down, not because it's a unhealthy situation. You're just rebelling against your parents because you don't want anybody to have authority over you, but you don't want to learn the lessons that your parents are giving you. You don't want to learn the lessons that are being presented. You just feel like, hey, I was born naturally better than everybody else, or being intelligent. So that's what's happening right now. You have a generation of people who are asking for communism, who are asking for Marxism, who are asking for socialism because they don't want to take care of themselves. But what they don't realize is that there are people in this society gearing or directing society in that direction right now by making it impossible to live on your own. When me and Roscoe were children, we were raised to be independent. When I say independent, I don't mean an independent black woman. That's not what I'm saying. Well, we were raised to be whole people.
Autonomous.
We were raised, yes, to be adults. Like, as a child, you knew that the destination was adulthood.
You knew you had a limited number of years under that roof and that you would eventually graduate and leave that roof.
And graduate, we ain't talking about school graduate. We're talking about graduating in life to the next, from a childhood.
No, but graduating from school was expected from you. The basic is just graduate from fucking high school.
That was the basics. Yeah, I dig it. But so when you throw the word out there, graduation, I want to be careful, because some people just equate that with education. But my education, my first teacher was my mother. Your first teacher was your mother.
Okay, but let me stop you right here. What a lot of people may not understand, and there's some go-getters out there, but we started getting money early, very early. And I started at 10. You started at what, 14? I think it was. As soon as you can get your work permit, I think you started working.
Yeah, we was working immediately.
So
you started earlier because you had a paper route.
Yeah,
but
see, the reason why I kept that paper out for 4 years is because I knew I could work it until I was able to get a work permit. And then once I get that work permit, I could work a regular job. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to work this amount of time. And in the meantime, I'm going to save some money. And then I'm going to buy shit that I want to enjoy. Because, I'm a fucking 10-year-old kid. Yeah, man. But it's my fucking money. But I learned the value of sweat equity and what a dollar actually buys you. Right.
Look, my weakness back then was jewelry, because I was in Upper Bound and they used to give us a stipend just for getting tutored. They would give us a stipend, and I would work. So I got into jewelry and I started buying rings. I was going to the pawn shop buying rings and chains.
That was a time when buying gold chains was a thing. And dope ass herringbone chain was some gangster shit.
Yeah. Even worse, here's something that happened to me and you. I know it hit you at the same time it hit me. There was a lot of niggas I thought was selling drugs or were gang members. Their parents were buying them shit. I remember a couple of homeboys had these dope ass herringbones, and I was hanging out with somebody, and their mom and dad just handed them a chain, and I'm like, that's not how my life works.
No, dude.
I mean,
and these chains were like several $100s.
Yeah. These was. Don't get me wrong. I did get my first chain from my mom and my dad. I did get stuff from my aunt and uncle, so I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't gifted. But none of them was that thick. You understand what I'm saying? So there was a element of, I thought this nigga was gangster because he had khakis on and was wearing a T-shirt and Nike Cortez. You know what I'm saying? Dope mans. But they wasn't selling dope. So, but I digress. What we're saying is that There's a generation of people that want to be taken care of, and they don't want to be just taken care of as in the sense that provide housing and clothes. They literally they want to drive Rolls Royces, but they don't want to work. They literally want to have gold and Rolexes, but they don't want to work. They just think that their talent, which doesn't exist. That's the whole point. Roscoe was telling you about this. Karl Marx, nigga had no talent. He had no ability to earn, so he had to live off his parents forever. That's the same shit going on right now. And the crazy part is these people they're Marxist, but they're billionaires. You know, we saw the whole movement with the Black Lives Matter movement. I just sent you a video of a guy that was reporting during that, and he was like, yeah, they were doing a lot of fucked up shit. Again, I'm a protester. I align with the protesters, but real protesters, not the ones that were shipped in and were fucking up people's communities. And even old boy mentions, he said, man, you know, we were going from riot to riot, and we were seeing the same organizations and the same people. And he talks about that. Look, protesting for protesting's sake is evil. Protesting for protesting's sake is literally that Luciferian shit that we're trying to teach you guys. Like, be careful. Now, if you're protesting because George Floyd got killed and it was police brutality, if you're protesting because George Floyd got killed and you realize that cop knew him, if you're protesting because
how about this? How about we stop talking about George Floyd and just bring up like real shit like Tamir Rice? You know what I'm saying? Like real people who are fucking killed. So the whole point of this is to shine a light on how people are deceived, how they're deceived by rich kids who masquerade as poor people because they hang with poor people.
Who create religions and tell you religion is bad, but the whole thing they're creating is a religion. You do realize that religion means you're bound to a book. So these Marxist books.
Also, like religion, these organizations like to use the money from other people. And one consistent tactic is that Karl Marx was getting other people to pay for things that he wanted or he needed. And he eventually meets a rich kid named Friedrich Engels. Engels inherited his money from his wealthy father, and he was also polyamorous. And Karl Marx had a child out of wedlock, and it destroyed the relationship with his wife. So this polyamorous, basically these motherfuckers were basically, this is Scientology before Scientology. You know what I mean? This shit is Scientology and NXIVM before NXIVM and Scientology.
Here's the funny part.
Aleister Crowley this guy was Aleister Crowley before Aleister Crowley. And what are we seeing with these groups? These people practice sex magic, and they don't believe in any. They don't want to answer to any higher power. They're not talking about government. They're talking about higher powers. They want to do as they will. That's their whole motto. Whether it's
do as thou will.
And that is a really based in a demonic behavior. And when you get down to like what these people are aiming towards, it's like, oh, well, if you take a pie crust and you put a whole bunch of shit inside the pie crust and you cover it with some more pie crust and you bake it in the oven, when you slice that pie open, it's still a shit pie. No matter how much you dress it up and put frosting on it, that's a doo-doo pie somebody is serving to you.
Look, you can't make it better. Now you can make it more palatable, put some seasoning on it.
Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug.
Well, it's the best drug going. That means that you're fully aware of some shit, but you can justify it or rationalize that shit away. And that's what these people are doing. They literally don't want to learn any lessons that their parents taught them. Now, don't get me wrong.
Check this out. Marx had 6 children with his wife. 4 died before reaching adulthood. The 2 daughters that grew up committed suicide together in a suicide pact that included their 2 husbands. So these 2 dudes was like, hey man, we're going to go ahead and kill ourselves with our wives. All right, it's going to be great. That is some brainwash ass shit right there. So Germany must really suck in the late 1800s for you to commit suicide with 3 other people.
people. Like that was a thing. It's like, you know what? Fuck this.
So
Shit.
these people and the death of all these people in his family caused him to write about what he called the Pale Maiden, talking about death. So this guy has been writing about darkness and death his entire life. And his father, before his father was a Christian believer. He said before he died, his father wrote him a letter, which you can read. All you have to do is look this stuff up. All these things that I'm citing, these facts about Karl Marx, are documents and letters that can be looked up. None of this is fabricated. And his father says to him, you are on some evil shit, and I hope you get spiritually cleansed before you die. His father is saying this shit. He was like, man, you fucked up in the head, son. You know, I didn't raise you to be like this, but you turned into a real cunt. So
insane in the membrane.
Exactly. So with this situation, nothing changes. And this guy dies this poor because he burns all his bridges. Everybody that he ends up working with ends up leaving because he has this dictator type of mentality. You know, but even though this motherfucker has done nothing to earn it, but he's mad because he got boils on his booty hole. You know what I'm saying? Because he can't sit down because he doesn't wash his ass.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right. And Mao was another person who did not wash his ass. He said the only time when he would bathe is when he would have sex with farm girls. Yeah, dude, that's disgusting. That's a fucking filthy ass dude, man. Like, you just walk around with swamp ass all the time, then that dries up, and then you get swamp ass again, and then that dries up, and you get swamp ass again, and that dries up. You get layers and layers of crustified swamp ass, dude. That's the most disgusting shit in the world, man.
Look, no, you got sick people trying to give you advice, and you're taking the advice because they're saying what you want to hear, dude, not what you need to hear.
I was in Toronto, Canada, and I went into a Chinese restaurant, and I sat down with my friends, and we started to eat lunch, and this dude come in, he sits down next to us, and he's so foul, I got visibly angry. And I turned to him, I said, hey, you need to go wash your ass, man. I was that livid about it. I said, you fucking stink, dude. Go home and wash your ass. I couldn't even eat the food I had to fucking get out. It was so nasty. So fucking nasty. I wanted to punch the shit out of this guy. It was so fucking filthy. And he was with people that did not stink. And he didn't look like a homeless person. He didn't dress like a homeless person. You know what I'm saying? But this motherfucker was just filthy. And I'm like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. I fucking hate you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was that bad. Like, I wanted to do violence to this person that they were that disrespectful to everybody else around them. That's what that was to me. I'm like, oh,
just not giving a fuck.
Mm-hmm. But
that's what the thing is. Most of these philosophies don't care about anybody but themselves, but they pretend like they care about a lot of people, but they don't care about how it affects anybody else. They don't care about anybody.
Karl Marx was a prejudiced, racist piece of shit. So one of his daughters had gotten married to a Cuban. And Karl Marx would like write letters to one of his friends and ponder on how much African is in this guy. And they used the word nigger, Niggr, the American racial slur. And I'm like, wow, for Europeans to be using that word is crazy. So,
wow.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. But then you have these black revolutionaries that, spout the teachings of Marx and don't realize he hated your black ass.
But it was the same thing with Che. Wasn't Che Guerrero the one that said?
Because he helped kill Patrice Lumumba.
Remember, don't misquote me. He was saying that if you were the Negroid race, how inferior you were. When you see the quote, it's so offensive. It's going to make it doesn't make you nauseous, but it hits you right, and it's like, ugh. And we wearing this nigga's t-shirts kind of thing. Motherfuckers act like you see Jay-Z wearing a t-shirt. And I'm like, yeah, that nigga really didn't read that nigga's work. He just found out about him, you know what I'm saying, and threw the shirt on. He ain't really reading.
Yeah. I mean, These things though, these people that you're following, you gotta understand they don't give a shit about you. Like you can't just jump onto this shit and for no reason. I remember one time in college, I was talking to my roommate, and he had this Korean girl, this mixed Korean girl. She was Jewish and Korean, and she was talking about going to some protest and like, we should go there and just fuck some shit up. I'm like, what will that accomplish? What's the point of that, of the anarchy? I don't know. Why would you ask me that? Because I want you to think about what the fuck you're saying and not just vomit out words.
Because there's a tomorrow. I grew up knowing that there's going to be a tomorrow. And what I do today is going to affect tomorrow. I can't just do shit. Now, again, you know my philosophy on a lot of things. A lot of these niggas nowadays, especially these super smart liberal niggas that don't really do shit, they want to create more laws. We need more laws. But if a nigga ain't following the other law, why would a new law help the situation? At some point in time, you got to whoop somebody's ass. Somebody asked me, what should we do about police brutality? I said, we already have something, Second Amendment. They won't let me, they block me on Facebook. I'm like, if a cop does something to you physical, you physically need to defend yourself. If he makes it, cool. If she makes it, cool. But if they don't make it, that's cool too. You have a right to defend yourself. The police work for you. And that's how we get all confused as if that we can't do anything. And well, that's not a realistic philosophy. So you think just tearing up society is realistic? Just say fuck it. Like during the whole George Floyd riots, they had like 127 days of rioting up there in Seattle. What the fuck? Like you killed small businesses. You fuck people up. Some people never recover from that. Some people never recovered mentally. The children weren't recovered. So that's what you want. You pretend like you care about everybody and their feelings and what they got going on, but you want to create a situation where people can't get medication, can't get half the healthcare is bullshit. But you know what I'm saying. So yeah, that was your goal, man. Fuck y'all. Y'all don't even have an idea what life is about or anybody else other than your immediate need. Yeah. So when that chick said, yeah, let's go fuck some shit up, you was like, nah, man. like if, like I said, during the Rodney King shit, you had a lot of people showing their real selves. The problem with the whole Rodney King riots in LA, people in other states and other cities did not know what else was going on. Some Korean person had shot the damn girl for no reason. There were other things that led up to the Rodney King riots that we were unaware of, but were very important. And so once you know about that, then you understand why that happened. It wasn't rioting for the sake of rioting. It was because, like, hell, shit, these cops is not serving us. They come to our neighborhoods, brutalize us, beat us, arrest us, and don't arrest this Korean lady who shot somebody. You know, that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of other shit going on.
Listen to this. These are racist remarks from Che Guevara. We're going to do for blacks exactly what blacks did for the revolution, by which I mean nothing.
Oh, goddamn.
Yeah, this motherfucker's just straight up. The Negro, those magnificent examples of the African race who have maintained their racial purity thanks to their lack of affinity with bathing, have seen their territory invaded by a new kind of slave, the Portuguese. The Negro is indolent and a dreamer, spending his meager wage on frivolity or drink. The European has a tradition of work and saving, which has pursued him as far as this corner of America and drives him to advance himself, even independently of his own individual aspirations. So, if y'all had any uncertainty about how prejudiced this guy was, there it is. Yeah.
But like I said, people love wearing this T-shirt.
I never wore one of those T-shirts. I never wore. The closest thing that might have been close, I had a red T-shirt with Jimi Hendrix's face on it.
Oh man, but that's dope.
Yeah. So that's it. Aside from that, nope, no sir. But people get caught up in this shit all the time. They get caught up, and you wind up on a team that you should not be on. That has no interest in your preservation or the preservation of your culture. But this technology happens over and over. And it doesn't matter if it's in a church or a synagogue or a mosque. It can be any of these places, or it can be at a university. And There's so many gullible people in college. So many gullible people that people will get in your face and argue about something they don't even have all the facts about. That's horrible debating. That's the worst kind of debating because then you end up just punching that motherfucker in the face because they're an idiot.
It's not. It's not that. It's the fact that all they care about are their feelings, and they're doing talking points. They're nothing they research, but something they heard someplace else. And you got to do a little bit of research. Like, hey, how did this person, come to be? Who are they? What's this? What's this about? How was this movement birthed? And so what happens is all they care about is, yeah, well, you shouldn't do this, Antifa that, and this, that, and I'm like, yeah, giving something a catchy name is not enough to make it justified or make it righteous. And that's what we're getting wrapped up in.
Yep. But it tends to happen over and over. And it manifests in different ways. You have huge billion-dollar movements that people get behind. George Soros made his money by betting on the destruction of currencies in countries. So in a way, it's kind of like that guy who calls himself an economic hitman, and how these people who work for intelligence agencies would go into these developing countries and get involved in the government and get them involved investing in certain things that would eventually collapse and destroy the economy. By doing this, they're working with guys like George Soros, who, of course, this guy has inside knowledge information. Of course he has. It's because in that strata, in that realm, there's no punishment for inside knowledge. Inside trading.
It's not the stock market. We think those rules and those things that apply, they don't apply when it comes to nations and countries. They don't apply when you're rich enough to influence the market, and when the market drops, you buy up everything, and then that's what they're doing. They're creating a deficit, and then they're buying up everything in sight, buying up whole countries.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing there to stop that. We think about insider trading. That is something for the American stock market. That's nothing for the rest of the world. They don't give a fuck about our rules. They don't. And so sometimes we throw out those words like we're saying something intelligent, not realizing we're saying something really stupid, because that doesn't apply. It's the same thing when you sit here. I love my people, but they'll see some police brutality or something unjust in Delaware. Well, the cops did this in Delaware, but they got completely different laws in Texas. Well, the cops in Texas I get they're both police officers, but they literally have different laws in those states. And what's illegal in one state may not be illegal in another state. Or when people go to court and you find out the real situation, it's not always what you thought.
But see, these guys play on a large scale, a global economic scale. Soros made $1 billion. He made up to $1 billion in a single day on a trade when he bet against the British pound. Yeah, this guy is a piece of shit.
Huge.
But see, what you often have to be aware of, though, is when they talk about things like open society. And what is an open society? Open society.
Open borders.
Means open borders. But there's foundations, quote unquote, that are designed to help these people. You hear about these people who are in Latin America, these Asian people, these Chinese people coming to Latin America, and there's buses waiting for them. Listen, the immigrants that came here 20 years ago, 15 years ago would be livid if they knew about this shit. All the stuff they had to go through, all the dangers they had to take to get here. But these motherfuckers get off their port.
It's dangerous. Hold it. It's dangerous for them too. But it ain't the same.
But here's the thing. They have paths that have been cut for them through the jungle now.
How
the
about
Chinese government has sent soldiers and contractors down there to Panama, where these people get off a boat from South America, and the path to the jungle has already been cut for them, so they know where to go.
So here's the crazy part: they fly into Ecuador, don't need a visa, don't need anything. Then, like he said, they catch a boat, they go into Panama, they make it to Mexico. They get to Mexico, the Mexican government gives them visas. 30 to 60-day visa. So they're there legally, but because you know why? They're coming to America. They know where they're coming. Then they get to the American border, tear up their credentials, tear them up. So every other person keeps their credentials. They tear them up because they're coming here for no good. They're here for something completely illegal, whether it's espionage, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex trafficking. Whatever they're doing when these Chinese people are coming to America, completely illegal, and they don't want any record of their movement.
Okay, check this out. The long game is these people are coming from countries who have 100-year, 500-year, 1,000-year plans.
Plans, yes.
And Americans don't plan that far because Americans are always fighting at social economic problems, and we're not tied together. We're not related because we have machines and we have mechanisms that are built to keep us separated. But this is, when you look at this from like the 30,000-foot view, what you see is more people coming into a country to uproot the people who are already established there. Now, are they going to do it themselves? No. But the open society and the people that create the open society and the people that push and to put the money behind Marxism and communism want to create a new type of American class that is mobile and can be changed and manipulated more than the last generation. Because if you destroy the middle class and then you bring in a new middle class and you have them working at a lower, more controlled, more stockaded type of social atmosphere, then these people are easier to control, easier to manipulate. And they're not as rebellious. They're not tied to the idea of liberty like this country is. Not only that,
they were brainwashed earlier. They were indoctrinated much earlier.
They came from dictatorial societies. So now they come here and they think, oh, we're not under a dictator anymore, so we'll be safe. What they don't realize is they're getting the same thing that's been remixed and sent back to them. It's all trick-knowledgery.
Well, the prime example. So there was a Asian family, a Chinese family in Minnesota, and they see an advertisement for growing weed in California. They said $5,000 a month. That's like $250 a day. They get there, they're beaten, cell phones taken, keys are taken to their car, and all they do is work for free. So
that's slavery.
People are coming. Yeah, that's the whole point. A lot of these people are coming over here under the same pretext. Like, okay, when I get over here, I'll make some money, send back to my family. Nope. Next thing, they talked about when you were talking about coming from South America, Ecuador, coming all the way up here through Panama. There's a thing called a rape tree, and they rape these girls and they pin their panties to these trees. These women are being raped and molested coming up here. It's a terrible like.
It's like evil. Roscoe was pure evil.
Yes, you knew where I was going. This is some pure evil shit. But they're being misled and they want to tear down America because America's the enemy. But they're not realizing that their own country is the enemy to them too. But they don't care about. But their country's more worried about damaging America than it is about uplifting their people. So they're sending these people over here, and they said it's the Mexican cartels that are helping them. They're paying the Mexican cartels $35,000 per person. So of course they're getting help. Of course they're. So what we're saying is, find out what you're agreeing to. Find out what you quote unquote believe in. A lot of these philosophies, a lot of this, the People's Republic of China, this communist people are sending people over here. See how they're living. See what's being done to them. See, and be careful what you're asking for, because you're throwing this word communism and socialism out there because you don't want to take care of yourself. The world should be fair. The world's not fair. You have to work for what you get, and you're not willing to work for it. So fuck you. But instead of you saying I'm gonna work harder, no, I'm gonna find somebody that agrees with me, and then we're gonna unite and fuck up what already exists. Fuck anybody else's hard work. Fuck anybody else's situation. I don't care about nobody but myself and my do with thy will, my will, whatever I will. That's some fucked up shit. That is going to destroy this world and usher in some fucked up ass people in charge.
If you go to OpenSocietyFoundations.org, you will see that George Soros is the founder of the Open Society Foundations. He has given away more than $32 billion of his personal fortune to fund the Open Society Foundation and work around the world. This is the same guy that bets on currencies to fail. But he's moved from just being a currencies trader to an economic hitman. That is what economic hitmen do. They go into countries and they destroy it. Mm-hmm.
That's what those guys do. They sit here and they take over a company either to make a shitload of money or to make money when it fails and pick up the pieces and get paid to pick up the pieces. He's a despicable.
What people don't realize is that white people have gentrified much of the areas where black people live in the United States. Now, what's happening to America? America is being gentrified by companies, outsiders, by billionaires and trillionaires. And people don't realize that, just because you thought you was going to get away with gentrifying that neighborhood and there's no karma attached to it, guess what, bitch? Everybody gets gentrified now. That's the crazy thing about all this. And, when you look at what they do, these open societies is like you have to look at their plans. And they have 6 geographic regions that draw on the voices and expertise of the local partners to forge priorities for action. That's all fancy wording right there, meaning that we have locations in 6 different countries where we go in and stir shit up. Okay. At the global level, we reinforce and amplify the common strands of our regional work. We identify and prioritize our regional, global, and cross-program collaboration in a manner that has a maximum impact where it is most needed. Oh, okay. So basically, you find hot spots, and you go to the hot spots and stir up shit the most. Mm-hmm. The creative dialogue between these local and global voices is an essential part of who we are. Creative dialogue. Hustling. Oh, so you're just hustling people. Gotcha. That's what that word is, creative dialogue.
That sounds like planning, like Planned Parenthood. We're planning. That's some fucked up shit, y'all. Yeah, dog.
Right. So what's funny though, man, is that they use all these. Okay, what they do is they use educated people to reinforce these plans or activate these plans for them, because those people are the easiest to dupe. Those are the people. Those people wear their heart on their sleeves. They're so earnest, it's ridiculous, and they're easy to deceive them.
Yes, they fall for anything, because if you tap into what they think is logical or it sounds educated, it's smarter than me, but it's smart, but it's educated, so I should submit. That is a terrible way to be. that is opening yourself up for manipulation of the highest caliber.
But when you look at the people who are on their board of directors, they're the children of George Soros, and they're all investment people. They're all people who've made money from investments. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people, they're on the board of trustees of all these financial groups. So, okay, this is all a fucking scam. But people think, it's nice when rich people give their money away. Well, in Europe, when people start giving a bunch of money away, that's viewed as bad because you did something wrong you're trying to cover up. So they call them bullshit on it.
You're falling for that bullshit.
Yeah, but no, I mean, they see that over there as like, oh, you've been doing some dirt, and you're trying to hide that shit now. Yeah, so they have a team of lawyers. It's called the Open Society Justice Initiative, and it provides the legal action to counter abuses of rights by both state and corporate actors in support of our broader goals. So basically, anybody at the legal, state, or national level that's fighting and pushing back against this is your team of lawyers that you use to try and justify people shitting in the streets and giving a whole bunch of money away to illegal immigrants in a country that was built by people who were brought here by force and were never paid any type of just due, any type of 40 acres and a mule for building this shit. See, but that's the whole thing. They'll give all this money away to these illegal wars, and they'll give money to $25,000 assistance in first generation immigrants, meaning nobody has been here before you, and they're gonna they're gonna give you money to buy this house. It would piss me off when I wanted to start my own business around the age of 18 and 19 and 20. You know, I was really young, wanting to start a business to get it going, and an SBA loan was so hard to get. A small business administration loan was so incredibly hard to get. But I would see these foreign people just roll in and get them all the fucking time. I'm like, so you have no way of checking his credit back home, but you see me as a risk because I have no credit. Me and this guy are equal. We have no fucking credit, but he's the immigrant and you're giving it to him.
Look, like I said, let's clarify. So what we were talking about earlier is at the Democratic Convention, Kamala Harris said that they're going to give $25,000 for your down payment for first-time home buyers. But when you go, there's an article that breaks it all down. It's an ABC article. Go read the article. It doesn't say first-time home buyers. It says first generation, which means that you're first generation in this company. This is for immigrants. Now, what they'll do for you is give you a $10,000 tax break, but you still got to come up with all the money on your own. That's not the same thing. This is that double speak that you learned about in 1984 in the book when you were in high school. This is that bullshit. So you got all these black people, black women clapping away, 25. You don't qualify. You must be a first generation home buyer, which means that your parents could not have owned a home. Because your parents own a home and my parents own a home, I wouldn't qualify, but an immigrant would, illegal or otherwise. So now what's going to happen is you're going to have whole communities of people with no loyalty to the nation that you live in. Which, again, I'm not dissing anybody for being an immigrant. That's disrespectful. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is the manipulation is in. Stop falling for it. We're being suckered and rallying behind some shit that doesn't even exist.
It says there would be more generous support for first-generation home buyers, combined with a new child tax and other tax incentives set to be unveiled, along with the White House's recent negotiation of Medicare prescription drug prices. So this is the same shit that Democrats do all the fucking time. They make these fucking promises that they cannot keep. And then, on top of that, not only are they giving false promises, she is using wordplay that she hopes you won't go and dig up or pursue yourself, dig deeper, because you're going to see that, no, it's not for first-time home buyers. It's for first-generation home buyers. The Harris plan is essentially expanded version of a proposal set forth by Biden, which would earmark $25,000 in down payment assistance for $400,000 first home generation. I'm going to read this again. It said,
it fucks with you.
It earmarks $25,000 in down payment assistance for 400,000 first generation home buyers, plus a $10,000 tax credit for first time home buyers. So, wait a minute. You're giving an extra 15 grand plus the $25,000 in cash for these people who've never been here before, that you don't know a fucking thing about them. They don't have any credit fucking history at all.
And literally, if you want to get deep, you have a lot of these people, a lot of these Chinese people who are buying property next to military bases. This is a thing. This is not conjecture. Look it up. So you got all these Chinese nationals who got over here illegally who are buying up property next to military bases.
This is a scam.
Look, that's all we got. We're just trying to make y'all aware of this, of what's going on in this world. And be careful about this bandwagon jumping bullshit, because it sounds good, rah, rah, rah. It's not real. It's fake.
But what you have, though, is what we started this show off with, and is the ideology behind all this. What is pushing the open borders? What is pushing this type of mentality? It's based on the ideas of a man that was a devil worshiper. And they want to get rid of the family. What happens when you get rid of the family? There's no love in your life. Let me explain something. When you don't have children, when you don't have pets, when you don't have nieces and nephews, you don't have any stake in the future.
Who do you live for other than yourself? You're not living for anybody or anything.
You're living for yourself. So then if you're just living for yourself, then you can easily become a bitter person in your later years.
A very evil person.
And these people tend to be susceptible to these ideologies. But as young black kids, you come up pretty fast learning what a hustler is and how a hustler talks and how to call bullshit Mr. Handman real fast. But that is basically what we're talking about here, is that these people, Karl Marx, Bruno Bauer, Engels, all these people are just grifters. They're devil-worshipping grifters that have been pushing this. And, it's funny. You can even use like music as an example. I remember as a little kid, I would always see the whole punk rock and like heavy metal thing. And I would like see like these kids drawing pentagrams and shit on their notebooks in school. I'm like, man, you're so far away from God. You're so far away from the light. You're so far away from love. And you're destroying yourself because your youthful essence is candy corn to demons. And your youthful essence, your adrenochrome, all that is youthful. You're like a young, stupid deer that just loves darting in and out across the interstate, even though you know you're going to fucking die. That's what these people are. They need people like that to be smart enough to be stupid. That's it. You just got to be smart enough to be stupid. That's all this is about. Is how can I hustle these motherfuckers and get the shit that I need and get some Kool-Aid, Jim Jones, Kool-Aid drinking idiots to do what I need to do.
The most important part is I got to sound good when I do it, because that's what people are going to fall for. If I say the right shit the right way, shit, they'll fall for anything. that's what's happening.
But when you talk like this, people think, oh, you gonna vote for this person, It has nothing to do with voting, man. It has more to do with your home training and your common sense. And if you don't have either one of those, then you are in for a world of suffering. Or as we said earlier, the endless multiplication of suffering. Look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.